What is the most terrifying thing you've ever experienced while home alone? One day while I was working afternoons a couple years back, I woke up at around 10 AM and started to watch American Dad before getting up. Next thing you know, I hear my back door open. A normal thing in our home since we only use the back door. But no one was supposed to be home yet. I assumed it was my mom and didn't think anything of it. Then I heard footsteps coming up the stairs as my bedroom was on the second floor. I call out to my mom and get no response. Then my door cracks open and a head pops in. It's a 30-ish-year-old man with a blonde beard and a big mane of greasy hair who looks shocked to see me. At the time I was about 260 pounds, 6 feet 3 and 20 years old. I was also sitting in only my boxers. Before I was able to realize what was happening, he asked, "Is this the residence?" To which I reply, "No." He makes a swift exit and before I can recollect my thoughts, he's not even in my driveway. Talked to a family friend who is a veteran police officer. Turns out a man has been pulling this kind of stunt to rob people in nearby towns. Someone attempting to break in. I have a 75-pound boxer and have never seen anyone run as fast as that man did. When I was 19 in my first apartment, I had someone knock at the door. I looked through the peephole and saw this burly, heavy-set man who abruptly started screaming to let him in. He was screaming things like he was going to beat my ass and kick the door down if I didn't open. I called the cops and as soon as someone got on the phone, he started body slamming my door to break in. I was freaking out and crying as they quickly had 5 cops show up within 5+ minutes. As soon as he heard the sirens, he quickly walked away and they met him at the bottom of the stairs. Apparently he was after the previous renter but was extremely intoxicated. They arrested him and thankfully he never came back. I ended up breaking my lease and moving out 3 months later. It was in a very nice neighborhood, but it quickly made me wish I was back home with family instead of being on the other side of the United States. You know those tongs in the kitchen that have a spring but a latch to keep them together? I had a pair of those and I put the latch on and put them down on the counter. I went away for a bit and came back and then they jumped off the counter at me. Biggest jump scare of my life. The latch had come undone and they sprung open. But in the millisecond when inanimate objects suddenly come to life and jump at you, you don't realize this and totally freak out. I hate when there's a random noise in the house like a door slamming shut. And the unsettling feeling of not being alone when you've already checked if everyone's gone. My BF worked away from home a lot and I always struggled to sleep on the first night he was away. On this occasion I was woken by the sound of a man shouting and then someone banging on wood or a front door. I jumped up and looked out my bedroom window. Just in time to see a man dressed all in black walking through our garden towards the house. I ran to the front of the house to look out of the front window and make sure he kept going. He did. But he met up with another man dressed in black walking towards my house. I was terrified and called the police. They arrived in a matter of minutes and checked out the back garden, but they were gone. Turned out a neighbor had caught them both trying to steal his car and one had escaped through the gardens while the other had run through the roads and they had met up outside my house. I didn't sleep at all that night and my brother came to stay the next night. I'm so glad I live in an apartment now. Much more security. I have been pretty fortunate based on these comments, but I was home alone one night while my wife and son were visiting my mill. I walked back to our bedroom to see someone rummaging through my son's room on the video baby monitor. Immediately grabbed my firearm and yelled to the other side of the house, "I am armed. Come out," slowly over and over while slowly making my way back to his room. Got there, flipped on the light and nothing. Searched the whole house, pumped full of adrenaline. Finally satisfied I was alone, I went back to my room and the guy was back in the room. I took a closer look and I am ashamed to say I was looking at myself. The camera is a live feed on our Wi-Fi and it was steaming on a huge delay. I have never known it to do that and it has not done it since. TLDR went looking for myself and came back empty-handed. The cleaning lady tried to commit suicide in our bathroom. She died 4 days later. I work from home, so I'm home alone a lot. One day I was working, and out of the corner of my eye I noticed some movement in my backyard. There was a man jumping over my fence into my backyard. Panicked, I call my then boyfriend now FNK and tell him what is happening. While I'm on the phone with him, I get a knock at my front door. It's a woman from CenturyLink informing me that technicians will need access to my backyard. I tell her someone just jumped over my fence, so I think they're already there. Way to give me a heart attack. CenturyLink. I had the police knock one day while I was alone. The cop had a guy in the back of his car who said we were holding his friend captive. I showed the cop my ID and explained that it was just me and my husband. He wasn't home but they could look if they wanted to, and he said no, that was okay, and then asked questions about my neighbors. When I was young, I came home from a party in the middle of the night. When my dad were out of town, I started making a midnight quesadilla when I heard someone cough in the basement. I yelled and ran outside, and they took off through the backyard. Come to find out, my dad's ex-GF's daughter stole her key to our house and came to rob us. She was busted a couple years later doing this to her still. When I was like 14, I was home alone one night around 10 PM, stood in my kitchen making some cereal. It's dark outside and then all of a sudden the loudest sound. Some drunk woman literally launched a hammer through my kitchen window. Was so loud and the glass was everywhere. I followed her down the street whilst calling the police. Pretty strange. Edit for everyone asking why I followed. So the reason I actually followed her was because you could see really clearly through the smashed window as it was now wide open. She looked like a very fragile little old crackhead lady that could barely walk or see straight, and she started stumbling away mumbling some poop once she had done it. Plus I didn't really know how the frick I was gonna explain this poop to my parents if I didn't have a solid answer, haha. But yes, it was a very distressed walk whilst following her. Definitely an action caused by adrenaline too. I lit 2 long taper candles for some ambience while I was playing guitar late at night. I was facing the other direction looking out the window while playing, and shortly later turned around and went back towards the candles and discovered one of them was completely gone. The stand was still there, but no melted wax. Just a bare candle holder, and the other one was still lit and no shorter than it was when I lit them. It was almost 3 AM and I was so terrified that I got in my car and left and drove to my dad's house. One evening an explosion at a petrochemical plant, located a mile from my house, blew out the double window in my living room while I was in the room. I definitely thought we were being bombed until I remembered where I live. I had just let my dog out to the backyard and he was completely traumatized. For the following 2 months I had to carry him outside and sit in the grass with pieces of chicken just so he would potty. Edit to at, my house is currently for sale for unrelated reasons. Not exactly alone, but I was home with my newborn son and someone knocked on the front door. I was expecting my mother, but she usually comes in through the garage. I thought it was strange, but yelled come in because why wouldn't I? Then this cracked out old woman comes stumbling through the door and asks me for a ride to the nearest gas station. I told her I didn't have a car seat for my son so I couldn't go anywhere. So she starts screaming that's just inappropriate and doesn't stop even when I'm telling her she needs to leave or I'll call the cops. After a minute or so, my mother actually pulls in the driveway. The crackhead sees the car and bolts back out the door. And I never see her again. That night my truck got broken into. Can't for sure say it was the same woman, but I have her description to the cops anyway. Somebody tried to break into the house while I was by myself. The whole place was quiet and dark at night time. I walked past the front door to go upstairs for bed, and the handle suddenly started jerking around like the Hulk was trying to get in. Then whoever it was started to either kick or shoulder the door, and it was making the whole frame jiggle. I completely froze and my mind went blank. Just standing there like an idiot and staring. My dog bolted down the stairs like it was her time to shine, scrambled on the tile, and let loose the most vicious barks I've ever heard. Whoever it was left. She was a very good girl. I miss her. I was asleep at home alone. When I turned over in bed, I casually opened my eyes a little whilst turning and they were shut again just as quickly. In that split second, I could have sworn I had seen a man stood at the bottom of my bed. I laid still, awake with my eyes closed, trying not to act like I was awake and trying to listen for any sound in the room of someone breathing or moving. Couldn't hear anything. I was too scared to open my eyes and look. Consoled myself that there wasn't any way someone could have gotten in without me hearing a window smash and fell back asleep. When I got up in the morning though the front door was open. They didn't take anything and left no signs of being there. Was still very creepy though. Edit. Typo, the guy wasn't a stud, he was stood. Edit. Thanks for my first award. Was home with my infant twin daughters who were sound asleep. I was watching TV in the lower level of my tree level home. On that level, the windows look out to the backyard, and as I got up to go to the kitchen, something caught my attention. What looks like a pale left arm is being subtly illuminated outside in the far right window, maybe 6 inches away from the window. It had angled straight down as if to steadying itself. My heart sunk. Then I could feel my heartbeat in my neck. I ran up the few stairs to the main floor and grabbed my phone and returned to see if it was still there. Nope. Nothing. I've never been remotely shaken like I was then. Called in on emergency police, and when they arrived, walked to the backyard with the officers but didn't find anything. They were great and kept saying calling them was the right thing to do. It's what we're all here for, etc. Don't know what it was, but the image is seared into my memory. Nothing too crazy but startling. 2 scenarios. And lady, so. My wife and I lived in apartment buildings owned by our university. We complained to get rid of our ant invasion. I'm a gamer and have some good noise cancelling headphones. This lady comes into our apartment. Probably announces herself IDK. I'm chilling playing games and I hear a noise in the bathroom. My wife shouldn't be home for a few hours. I almost end up clobbering that poor woman. Dart. Police response to stabbing. That day was Friday. Game night. Just moved into our new apartment, so none of our friends know where we live currently. Wife goes out to hang out with friends. It's 12 AM. I hear a knock on our door. It's a man's voice. Now this is weird for several reasons. No one knows where we live. And a man knocking at 12 AM? Nah. Huge red flags. I tell him give me a minute. I go grab the biggest knife I could. As I open the door I hide the knife behind the thigh furthest from him. And he's responding to someone in the neighborhood who claimed they got stabbed. I'm literally holding a freaking knife. Lucky I hid the knife behind me. Chatted a bit and he left. Could have been bad. I was babysitting a kid who had a video monitor and was told that she wouldn't wake up while the parents were out, and if she did to call them right away. I was watching TV with the monitor set off to the side to keep an eye on her, and right around 11. The camera's view shifted a few inches. It then began to slightly jiggle like someone was messing with it. I was squinting at it trying to decide what I was actually seeing. And I kid you not, the whole screen burst to static for a few seconds. And the kid started wailing. She stood up and was screaming in her crib just like one of the kids from The Sims. When she didn't fall back asleep after a few minutes I called mom and she said okay, we're on our way home anyway. We think she has nightmares sometimes, it's fine. Never again. Got a 5-channel sound system. Nothing too fancy but the best I'd ever had. Watched an action film and heard a creaking door to my left in the distance. I had to clear my home as I thought there was an intruder. Nope. Just better stereo sound. Edit. It's a 5-1 system. The 2 behind me cause all the problems. They are oriented towards the outside of my house. Sorry for any confusion in my lack of terminology. When I was about 10 years old someone kept ringing the doorbell for like 10 minutes. Was freaking creepy. A few years ago I was home alone in my basement playing video games when I hear the door that connects my kitchen to the garage creak open and slam shut. But I never heard the actual mechanical garage door open. Then I heard heavy footsteps of someone wearing boots walk the length of my kitchen directly above me. I originally thought, oh, my brother must have forgotten something as he had left about 5 minutes before that for work, so I was about to yell up to him to make fun of him, but something in the back of my mind was telling me, hold on, something's not right here. So I muted my TV to both hear better and to stay quiet. Then I heard the footsteps turn around and walk back to the door. And again I hear it creak open and slam shut. But again I never heard the actual mechanical garage door open or close. So I slowly walk upstairs thinking maybe my brother just forgot to close the garage door. I slowly open the door to my garage and see that the garage door has been closed the entire time. The only two explanations I can come up with are either something paranormal happened, or someone broke into my house, walked through my kitchen and left without taking anything, while also not letting me hear them open my garage door. In my opinion, both are equally terrifying to me.
Hi there. Look, if you enjoyed the video, well, why not go ahead and hit that like and subscribe to Reddit Stories. In fact, if you want to see even more responses to this thread, well then, take a look. There's the link in the description below. And remember, show some love to those authors while you're there. And I look forward to seeing you next time.